Hello, everybody. My name is Dr. Jeff Winkle, and I am going to be your guide through classical mythology for the next 7 weeks. So I wanted to use this time to just briefly introduce the course, introduce myself, give you a heads up about what to expect, and some ideas of kind of what my expectations for you will be over the next 7 weeks, and just to kind of give you an overall overview of what's in store. So as we start out, just a little bit about me. My name is Jeff Winkle. I am the humanities professor here at GRCC, and I love this class because it's right in the my field of study. My background in my education, my doctorate, is in what we call classical studies. So everything having to do with the ancient Greek and Roman worlds, Greek, Latin, art, archaeology, history, religion. Really anything that coming from that ancient time period that brackets the ancient Greeks and the ancient Romans is what I'm trained in, and it's the area of study that I particularly love. And mythology is a huge part of that. And so this is a really exciting class for me to teach because I love to share this stuff. I love to talk about this stuff. I love to hear what students have to say and how they react to this stuff. And it's just a lot of fun. It's just a rich body of literature and art and film, as we'll see, and it continues to influence to this very day. So, like I said, my name is Dr. Jeff Winkle. I have a PhD in classics from Northwestern University. Lived in Chicago for a long time while I was pursuing my degree in Evanston, and I've been teaching here at GRCC for about the last 5 years or so, and I absolutely love it. And like I said, this is one of my favorite courses to teach. Now, the course we'll be doing is what we call an asynchronous course. My guess is probably a lot of you are familiar with online learning now, just be given our experience over the past year. But again, just in case you're new, this is what we call an asynchronous class. We will not be having live meetings where I'll have you kind of up on Zoom or Google Classroom or anything like that. What you will find in this class is I will put up a folder for each week's topics and quizzes and readings and lectures. And my expectation is that you will be able to complete the work for each week by midnight Sunday before the following week's work begins. So each Sunday at midnight, the folder for the next week's work will open up. And my expectation for you is that you'll be able to do everything in that folder over the course of that particular week. So I'll say more about this kind of stuff as we walk through the syllabus in just a moment. But this is a 7-week class, which means it's condensed. I don't really cut a whole lot of stuff out, given that it's a 7-week class versus a 14-week class. So it's a lot of stuff, and it comes with its own challenges. It comes with its own benefits, I think. One of the great benefits, I guess, for many people, for an asynchronous online class is that it's really, you can do it on your own timetable. You don't have to show up at a particular time for a particular class meeting. And as long as you can budget your time and organize your time efficiently, it's really a great option to do these kinds of things, particularly if you have kind of an unpredictable work schedule or you've got other things going on. It's great. However, it really forces you, particularly again in a condensed asynchronous class, to be on top of things and to really get the work done. It's very easy to fall behind if you don't get on it from the very beginning. And so for the first couple of weeks, I will keep things open because I know people are getting their feet wet and getting a hold of the textbooks and getting used to things. But by we get to about 3 weeks in, I'm going to expect everybody's kind of on the same page and is able to kind of follow the schedule as posted. But of course, as always, don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to shoot me an email with questions or issues. If you're having trouble with the technology, don't hesitate. All right, so these are the two texts that I've ordered for the class, and it's this text here, Classical Myth by Barry Powell, will be kind of our anchor text. This is kind of our main textbook for the class. Most of the readings we'll be doing from the class will come from this textbook. It's not a perfect text, but it really is a solid, very readable, very digestible introduction to the subject of classical mythology. And I should say, when I when I use that term classical, and when you hear that word classical in an academic sense, that really means anything having to do with the ancient Greeks and Romans. And the vast majority of what we'll be looking at during this course will be the myths that we've inherited from the ancient Greeks. We'll talk a little bit about some of the other Mesopotamian, Egyptian, Roman myths, such as they inform our study over these next few weeks. But most of the stuff we'll be talking about would be what we call Greek mythology. But classical mythology really means ancient Greek or Roman. And then one of the main texts we'll be reading and talking about together is Homer's Odyssey. And I've ordered this particular textbook for the class. This is translated by Stanley Lombardo. It really is an excellent translation. As I'm sure some of you know, the original Odyssey was composed in a dialect of ancient Greek, which is no longer spoken today. And there have been dozens and dozens, hundreds of translations of the Odyssey into many, many different languages. And I should say that, if you read the Odyssey maybe in high school, or you have another copy, another translation that you want to use and you don't want to buy an additional text, that's fine. I'm always sympathetic to students who want to find ways to save money. I will say that this is it's a really good translation. It's very readable. Not all translations are equal. There are some really awful English translations that really kind of prevent you, I think, really from understanding or more importantly, enjoying the story. So if you can get this, you can pick this up. Please do so. Both of these texts are available through the GRCC bookstore, and I think this translation of the Odyssey is also very reasonably priced. So please get those as soon as you can, particularly this anchor text. But because of our condensed class, we'll be jumping into the Odyssey fairly soon in our time together. All right, let me pull up the syllabus here and walk us through that fairly quickly. At the top of the syllabus, again, you'll find the syllabus on the course Blackboard site. The class Blackboard site is going to be the clearinghouse for all the stuff that we do in this online course, and it's open now. You can check it out. Please do so as soon as you can. There's my name. Sorry, I'm having some throat issues this morning. I don't really have a set office right now. Finkelstein Hall, or RJF Hall as it's called, it's formerly called Main Hall, is under construction. And once it's done, I will be on the third floor there. But I'm kind of a professor without a home right now. And so I will try to be in my temporary office under the Bostwick parking ramp in the office suite on Fridays. But it's really going to be hit or miss. And I would say that if you really want to come by and meet and talk about stuff, that's great. I'm very happy to do so. Just shoot me an email. My email address is going to be pretty much the main conduit for contacting me, jeffreywinkle@grcc.edu. So again, don't hesitate to contact me with any questions or issues you might have. All right, I'm not going to read this verbatim. You can read this on your own. Course information, like I said, we're going to be looking at mainly the major mythic traditions of the ancient Greeks, with a little bit of attention to some of these other kind of ancient cultures that also produce their own body of mythology. But I would say of all these put together, none have had more influence on particularly the Western tradition than the ancient Greeks themselves. And along the way, we're going to be, one of the things I love about mythology is that it's really a ton of courses wrapped into one. It's literature, it's theology, it's archaeology, it's history, it's philosophy. It's all kinds of different genres and media of communication: poetry, tragedy, comedy, modern prose, film. They're really a kind of endless avenues by which mythology has found its way into the various corners of our culture over these past thousands of years. You can have a look at the student learning outcomes at your leisure. Here are the texts I've ordered: Lombardo's translation of the Odyssey, Barry Powell's Classical Myth. And again, you can find those at the bookstore. Blackboard site is where we're going to be doing all of our stuff. Have a look at it. I already saw that many of you have already logged in last week when I opened this up, so that's always good to see. Attendance, is for an asynchronous course is judged differently, and I'm not going to be asking you to show up at particular times, but I will define attendance really as your timeliness of submitting assignments. And so there will be online forums and discussion boards on the Blackboard site, and your the quality of your answers and the timeliness of your answers is going to be the way that I kind of will grade your participation slash attendance for this class. So show up and get involved. Grading procedure. So there is 1,000 possible points over the course of the semester, divided thusly. So your participation in online forums worth a potential 200 points. There'll be reading quizzes. For the most part, every time I ask you to do a reading, there will be an attendant reading quiz for you to take online. And these will be, these are timed just to kind of keep you honest, so you're not spending your time, flipping through books and things trying to hunt for answers. And so do the readings, do them well. And so, for example, I may give you a 10-question quiz, and these will be multiple choice for the most part, maybe some true and false. And I'll give you maybe 15 minutes to complete those 10 questions, which I think you'll find is plenty of time. But I do time them just to keep you honest and give you a little bit of motivation to do the readings in a timely fashion and to do them well. And you can attempt these quizzes twice. And what the software will do will kind of will average your two scores. So after you take the quiz once, it'll tell you how well you did. I think I have it set up that it'll show you which ones you got wrong. It won't tell you the answer, but it'll tell you which ones you got wrong. And if you want to go back and you can take a second attempt to boost that grade. Now, of course, if you ace it the first time, there's no reason to take it again. But these will be a regular feature starting in our very first week. You do a reading, and then you open the online quiz on that reading. There will be a research paper, one kind of formal paper for the class. I'm not going to say anything about that now. The prompt is available on the Blackboard site. It has its own link on the left. If you want to take a look at it and get a jump on that, that's great. I will formally introduce the paper once we get 2 or 3 weeks into our course. So wait for that. And then we'll have kind of 2 formal tests in the class. There'll be a midterm and a final. And again, I'll say more about these as we get closer and give you more information. But these will be essay based. No short answer, multiple choice, or true and false on the midterm or the final exam. My philosophy of testing is that the quizzes, these kind of weekly quizzes, will kind of take care of that who, what, where kinds of questions, which are important. Details are always important. And then the midterm and final will be given over to the more compare and contrast, analyze, or I may give you a thesis and ask you to take a side of that thesis. You argue for it, argue against it. So the midterm and final are opportunities for you to show me that you know how to kind of maybe connect some dots we haven't necessarily connected in class together, that you're able to analyze, that you're able to kind of bring evidence from readings to support a point and to argue on one side of an argument or the other. But I'll introduce both of those and give you some very clear ideas on how to prepare for that. In the past, I've given sample questions and stuff like that, so you can get an idea of the kinds of questions I ask. And again, I should say throughout all this, I'm not out to trick you. I'm not out to fool you. And the reading quizzes and the midterm and the final, I'm not going to pick stuff from footnotes and obscure things to kind of to see who's really kind of read every little thing and who's dotted every I and crossed every T. No. The quizzes are there to test basic comprehension, and the midterm and the final will be essays that will be gathered around major themes and topics and major readings that we will have talked about and that I will have lectured about and that you have read about throughout the course of the semester. Just a note on my grading scale, just because I've heard from students that it's slightly different than what they've encountered elsewhere at GRCC. It's a fairly straight scale. So 90% in this case in terms of points, 900s to 1,000 is your A's, 800 to 900 is your B's, and so on and so forth. I just call attention to that. I don't think you'll find that I'm a particularly harsh grader, but I do think that a straight A should reflect work that's above and beyond. So as I understand it, many professors will have a 93% and above be a straight A. You see by my points here, mine's slightly more demanding. 95%, 950 points to 1,000 would be an A. So I just so that there's no question and there's no mystery by the time we get to the end of the course, I just want to be upfront about my grading scale and what those points out of 1,000 will ultimately amount to. Yeah, late assignment policy. You read that. This is really. I expect you to get your stuff in on time. I'll be a little lenient as we get into the first couple of weeks, but once we're 3 weeks in, I'll expect that you can that you're doing the work and being able to complete that work by the end of the Sunday midnight at the end of the assigned week. You'll find along the way. I think I have one even up in week 1. These discussion forums, where I'll be asking you to answer what I call big idea questions, and these are kind of questions that it's usually the last thing I'll ask you to do for a week. And some kind of large, kind of overarching question that asks you to kind of compare and contrast things and analyze some things from that week's material. And so this kind of gives you a guide of kind of when I read yours, kind of how I grade them. It's again the potential points for each of these big idea form questions is a potential of 25 points. So a 25 point grade on a form question knocks it out of the park. Insightful comments, clear synthesis of the ideas that you've put out there, and maybe an idea that one of your peers has put out there. You state your objections, your ideas, your arguments clearly, and reply in an organized, clear, persuasive manner. And then you can kind of see, as it goes down, 25 point answer, 15.5%, 0 points, and so on and so forth. Just so again, so we're all clear. Here's the basic kind of course schedule. Kind of give you an overview of the kind of stuff we'll be talking about. This week is we kind of begin at the beginning. Good place to start. An introduction to kind of the core concepts of mythology. And then some of the first myths we'll get into are creation stories. What did the ancient Greeks think about where the world came from? Which gods were involved? Where do famous gods like Zeus and Hera and some of these other gods and goddesses that you may have heard of before, where do they come from? And what did the Greeks think about them? And how did they get to be in charge? These kinds of fundamental mythological and theological questions. And then next week we'll start getting into Homer, Homer's Odyssey, and along the way, so that will dominate kind of weeks 2 through 4. And along the way, we'll be looking specifically at many notable gods and goddesses: Athena, Hades, notions of kind of hell in ancient Greece, the underworld, Apollo, Artemis, Hermes, Aphrodite, and Ares. And again, I should say, if this is completely new to you, that's not a problem at all. I don't assume any knowledge on the part of you guys. I think in many ways you'll be surprised by stuff that you recognize. It still really is in our culture in many different ways. Things very directly. If you've read the Percy Jackson novels, right, directly borrowed and based upon lots of Greek myth. Even books, series like Harry Potter, while not directly drawing from Greek mythology, the structure of the heroes' journeys that happen in those stories, a lot of the language, a lot of the expectations of what characters do and who's good and who's evil and what are really rooted in these same kind of mythological constructs. And so this stuff is everywhere, kind of directly and indirectly. And then before the midterm, again, which will of course be a take-home set of essays, I'll ask you to watch the Coen brothers' "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?", which is a film that came out in 2000, year 2000. And if you're not familiar with it's a really wonderful retelling of Homer's Odyssey, but it's set in the American South in the 1930s, and it stars George Clooney as the Ulysses/Odysseus character. And it's a great way to kind of cap off the first half of the course. Then on the other side of the midterm, we'll be asking questions about, how did myth function as religion? These weren't just stories to the ancient Greeks. These reflected beliefs that they held and how they thought about their gods. And how you think about your gods is how you think about your place in the universe and who's in control and how much control do I have over my own life. Is there an afterlife? Is there a way to get a good afterlife and avoid the bad afterlife? These are just core fundamental theological questions that the Greeks wrestled with. We'll be reading a number of ancient Greek tragedies: Oedipus the King, Alcestis and Bacchae, and then we'll end capping it off with a look at kind of, you might say, kind of the greatest hits of Greek hero stories. And some of the notables here: Perseus, Heracles, who's better known for some reason by his Roman name Hercules, same guy, Theseus, and Jason will bring our course to a close. And then at the very end, again, another take-home final exam with take-home essays. And then also in that last week of class, your final papers will be due as well. Again, I'll be saying much more about all of this stuff as we get into it. And then you can read the kind of college policies. This is just kind of standard boilerplate stuff that you find in all syllabus across campus. But as always, let me know if you have any questions. Log on to Blackboard, jump in, open up that week 1 folder under the assignments tab under Blackboard, get going, and get involved, and let me know if you have any questions along the way. See you later.